Hey y'all, it is officially dinner time and I am finally making my good delicious cabbage soup. I thought about this meal because it is kind of like a diet soup kind of. I mean, it is really depending on what you would eat it with, because some people would just probably eat it as soup, some people use it as a diet soup, and they eat just real light throughout the day and eat as much cabbage soup as you want. So I actually found this recipe on divascancook.com. That is divascancook.com. And she also has a YouTube channel. She's really awesome. I love watching her channel. But with the soup that I make it all the time. It's really good. It's kind of like a cleanse, because with cabbage, most greens will clean you out, if you get what I'm saying. So most green vegetables will clean you out. So I just changed it up a little bit to make it more vegan, because what I use the diced tomatoes, and it has the basil, garlic, and oregano in it. Shredded carrots. I use parsley flakes. I use black pepper. I use basil. I use a few flakes, like a pinch or two of red pepper, crushed red pepper. It makes it a little spicy. I like it a little spicy. It gives it total life. I use salt. I have some bell peppers here. Of course, the head of cabbage. And I have, what she normally uses is chicken broth, but I'm using vegetable broth since I'm making it vegan. And I'm kind of just doubling up my ingredients so that I can make it last longer. So she normally uses a half a head of cabbage. I'm using the whole head. I'm using 2 bell peppers, a huge onion, 2 cans of tomatoes versus her. I believe she normally uses 1. And I use the whole, like I said, the whole onion, a few things of garlic, a few cloves of garlic. Minced, I will mince them up. And so she normally uses just the 1 thing of chicken broth. Well, I'm gonna use vegetable broth, but I'm using 2 of them. I kind of used this a little bit earlier. It wasn't much, but if I run out or if I need more broth for the soup, I would just probably add a little water using my tomato can. So it normally calls for 1 teaspoon of basil. I'm going to be using 2. 1 teaspoon of oregano. I'll be using 2. Just as I said, 1 can of diced tomatoes, but I'm using 2. The 4 cups of broth, but I'm using, this will be 8. This will equal 8 cups. Also, just the 1 cup of onion. I like putting the whole onion in there. I love onions. Also, just 1 cup of carrots. I will probably put most of these, probably all of these in there, because that's what I like to use. She normally uses celery, but I hate celery. I do not like the taste of celery. I never liked celery ever since I was a little kid, so I don't use it. Some people use you can use whatever vegetables you want. If you're using it as a diet, you can use whatever vegetables you want. I've seen recipes that had like broccoli in there, or asparagus, anything, just any kind of vegetables. As long as it's a bunch of vegetables, it'll be a vegetable soup. But the main ingredient will be the cabbage, because that'll be the most in there. And then I normally put just a few flakes of parsley flakes, and at the end I put a little bit of black pepper and a little bit of salt in there just for taste. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started, and I'll just keep y'all posted as I go along. So hang in there with me, y'all. See y'all. Alright, y'all, so on to the next step. I have my cabbage all chopped up really well and rinsed. And you want to chop the cabbage up really good, because you don't want any huge pieces in your soup. Then I have here my onions and bell peppers. And I have my minced garlic. And I like my garlic to be a little chunky. I like to actually taste it in there. So I'm going to go ahead and get this in. I have my olive oil going. I did forget to say that I use virgin olive oil. I have it going in a pot, and just so far it's just going to be the onions, the bell peppers, and the carrots until they are opaque. And then I will add in the garlic, and I'll stir that in for about a minute, and then I'll start adding the other ingredients. So I have my onions, carrots, and bell peppers going in this big pot. I did put some olive oil down there, and as I said, I'm just going to cook these a little till they become opaque, pretty much till the carrots start getting soft, and then I'll add the garlic. Okay, y'all, so I already did the garlic. I put the garlic in there, and I stirred it up for about a minute, and then I just added the first tub of vegetable broth. This recipe and cooking is pretty fast. It's pretty easy. It's just cooking the stuff, and then after that, pretty much warming it up. So I'm going to put the other tub of vegetable broth in there, and then what I do after that is I would add a can of tomato. Add a can of diced tomatoes. So yeah, I've already added the can of diced tomatoes. So what I do is I put the 1 can of diced tomatoes in, then I add half of my cabbage, and then I put the other can of diced tomatoes in, and then I add the rest of the cabbage, and then I stir it up really good, and then I'll let that cook down. Okay, y'all, so I added the half of the cabbage, and I just put in the other can of the tomato, the diced tomatoes, and I'm just going to stir this in and then add the rest of the cabbage. Okay, y'all, so I have all the cabbage in there, all the tomato in there. I did find that I needed more broth, so I just took the tomato cans and I just filled them up with hot water and dumped them in here. I just did 2 cans of hot water, which pretty much actually helped to get the rest of the tomato out of there. So now I've stirred it up, and I'm going to put the top on and let this cook down. Alright, y'all, the soup is officially boiling, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it down. The cabbage is starting to get softer and opaque and cooking through. So once I turn it down, I'm going to turn it down to low, like medium low, and let it simmer in this, and I'll also add in the seasonings. Alright, so I have turned the pot down to medium low. Of course, it is still boiling a little because it is hot. So I've added my seasonings. I have 2 teaspoons, excuse me, bless me, 2 teaspoons of oregano, 2 teaspoons of basil. I have a couple of pinches of parsley flakes in there, a few shakes of black pepper. I like a lot of pepper in mine. A few shakes of salt, and a few, like 2.5 pinches of red pepper flakes. So I'm just going to mix this up, and I'm going to put the top on and let it simmer until the cabbage is completely cooked. Alright, y'all, my cabbage soup is officially done. I cooked the cabbage to how I like it. I still like it to be a little bit crunchy, but mostly soft. I didn't want to cook all the nutrients out of the cabbage. So this is it. The soup, it's, you can follow, of course you want to follow the directions of the recipe and add the seasonings and everything, but it's also kind of like your own acquired taste. If you think you need more seasoning, add more seasoning. If you don't want that much seasoning, then subtract some seasoning. But it's all up to you. This is how I like to make mine. I do notice a little difference because of the vegetable broth. It is darker than the chicken broth, which is pretty much clear. But it's good either way. You want to make sure as you're cooking it, you're tasting it, and make sure that the taste tastes how you want it to taste when it comes to the seasoning. So this is my dinner. It's kind of a late dinner. It took me about 2.5 hours to completely cook the cabbage, from cutting the first vegetable to turning the heat off. So I am officially done, and I'm about to chow down. I am hungry. See y'all later.